Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Live with Suzi. I'm the producer and your host, Suzi. We are very delighted to bring on Kathy Kaveh, a writer, editor, and ghostwriter, to our show today. And thank you, Kathy, for choosing Live with Suzi's platform to talk about your debut book called And Sometimes Why. It's a novel. Welcome to the show, Kathy John.
Thank you, Suzi. I'm glad to be here. Hello to everyone who's listening. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, this book, I might add at the beginning of the show, it's very new, just came to the market, published in May 2021, so about 3-4 months ago. Congratulations, first of all. And
Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, let me quickly go over where you studied, and you graduated actually from USC with double majoring in journalism and English literature. I believe you also studied at Sorbonne University in Paris. That's wonderful. Yes. Very impressive indeed.
Thank you.
Okay. And then also you do write articles and blogs for both the Huffington Post as well as the Elephant Journal, amongst other stuff you do. Tell us about your late novel, And Sometimes Why, and tell us, first of all, what really inspired you to write this book?
Well, what really inspired me, I have to admit that I started this book a long time ago, probably about 15 years ago. So when I originally started it, my thought pattern was that there are a lot of books on different historical events, the Russian Revolution, the Holocaust, the French Revolution. I hadn't read a memoir or a fiction story, a lot of historical, political books, but no memoirs from the point of view of someone who grew up during the Iranian Revolution. So that was my original goal. While I was writing it and particularly editing it, which is what took the bulk of time, a lot of books on this subject did indeed come out. So the story, the events are no longer that original. They have been talked about. But when I wrote it, it wasn't quite original. But at the insistence of my editor and my agent, they said, even though the story is already out there, your writing is unique and everyone has a different perspective, so you should pursue it. So that was really my inspiration, is to just put another story about an Iranian family, really, during the Iranian Revolution, migrating to the U.S., and then the main character going back to Iran as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Well, reading your book and also hearing different people talk about it, I got feelings that obviously it came out as a fiction book. However, prior to this interview, when I did talk to you, you did mention that a main character, Miryam, is obviously based on yourself, but the others not. So it's like a mixture, if I may say so. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. Well, there are different kinds of writing, and someone who studied journalistic writing, and I know about memoir writing, fiction writing, they all really fall into different categories. So for a book to be categorized as memoir, it does have to be factual. All the aspects have to be factual, even the dialogue. You might not remember exactly verbatim what someone said, but you need to be as accurate as possible. So being that a lot of what's in my book is fiction, I couldn't write it as a memoir. I don't say it in the book, but I do say it on Amazon that it's based on true events. So a lot of people have that question for me, is it's definitely not a memoir, it's fiction, but the reason people ask me, is it based on your life, is it a memoir? And the answer is, it is based on my life, but there are a lot of fictional aspects in it. So let me clarify. The events, the historical events, the political events are very much factual. The settings are very much factual. I mean, to the very specific degree, and this is what's just coming into my head, the villa in Shamal, for instance, was actually our villa that we no longer have. But very detailed things about the settings and the events are factual. The main character, Miryam, is absolutely based on me. But the other characters, the mother, the father, the brothers, all the other characters, the dialogue, the events that transpire with the characters, those are all fiction. So I couldn't categorize it as a memoir. I had to characterize it as a novel, but it is based on true events.
Got you. Thank you for explaining that. I'm happy to hear it. And also now move on to my next question. That would be, who really did you have in mind, besides being, inspiring by, to read this book? Your, in other words, capture readers, audience. Who really did you specifically had in mind to read your book?
I originally, and it still is to some degree, my audience at the time that I wrote it was Americans. Again, when I first wrote this, there was no social media. There was no Instagram, Twitter. Internet was in its infancy. So there was not a lot of dialogue about Iran, there were still a lot of stereotypes about Iranians. So my main goal was to reach American readers, especially young people, so that they would be informed about, the plight of Iranians, what really happened, because I personally, and I know a lot of other Iranians, faced a lot of prejudice when we came here. And this was sort of my way of saying that, we're just people, this is what we went through. So it's changed. Now my target audience is actually the new generation, first generation Americans whose parents are from Iran, my own son included. He's not aware of all that we went through. So my target audience kind of has changed, but I still would like to promote it to Americans so they can get sort of a perspective of, what life in Iran was like before the revolution, during and after.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And also now today that we're talking about your book and introducing it to our followers, obviously we cannot help but talk about what's going on in Afghanistan. Anything you want to add to that, knowing where you came from initially at a very young age in Iran and things that you had to deal with at that time? How does that affect you nowadays?
Yeah, absolutely. Yesterday I'm sure it was difficult for a lot of people. Again, having a background in journalism, I was taught and trained not to bring my own opinions, my own feelings into, issues that are going on. But it was extremely difficult yesterday I got very, very emotional to the point that I had to actually turn off the television and stop reading. I'm not in any way trying to compare what I went through to what the Afghans are going through right now. But even though my book, a lot of the parts where I talk about the revolution or the war, it's from a child's point of view, so it's kind of lighthearted. But yesterday, as I was watching the events in Afghanistan unfold, it just hit very close to home. I was only 7, but I distinctly remember. I remember the Shah leaving. Afghan's president leaving, and sorry, I'm getting
some resemblances. I'm sorry. Okay.
No. It's okay. I want to talk about this. So yeah, it was hitting close to home. Just seeing all the Afghan people, especially the women. I read that just like in Iran, a lot of the population in Afghanistan is under the age of 25. So they actually don't remember when the Taliban was in power 20 years ago. And there are no women on the streets right now. A lot of journalists that were trained, to report Western-style journalism by the Americans that were there. The children, the young girls that are being taken from their homes, and
so sad.
We know that they're going into, sex slavery. So a lot of this, again, I'm not even comparing what I went through, but it just hit close to home, just the events that were transpiring, all the confusion that's going on there, and, seeing the people falling off the plane was obviously a reminiscence of September 11th. So all of this combined just really, really made me emotional, as I'm sure a lot of people were yesterday.
And I'm sorry for bringing it up.
No, I'm glad.
It's just that, obviously it's today's news, and I cannot not talk about it. And I hope you didn't mind just touch base on that.
No, absolutely. I'm glad to talk about it. I think people should be aware, and no matter where we're from, where we live, we shouldn't be in our own bubble. We should know what's going on in other parts of the world. And they're human, We look at these thousands and thousands of people, and it's easy to just overlook it. But they're people. Each one of them is a human being, just like us.
Totally, absolutely. So, I can't agree more. I mean, it's a big world, and yet it's a small world.
Exactly.
It's like, we're all connected to one another as much as some of us want to look the other way. But the truth is we're all connected, and however we want to look at it. Anyway, on that note, I appreciate you talking about it briefly. And now let's jump into another question here. I want to know, after writing this book and publishing it, would you like to do maybe another one in the near future, or has it been too much trouble that made you want to stop at least for now and think about it later? How was the experience, basically, writing this book?
The experience was, I enjoyed the experience. I'm not going to lie. It was, I love writing. I even loved the editing part, but it took a long time. It was I had a lot of setbacks, and I didn't want to give up. So it took a long time. So it did take a lot out of me, and I did my best. I'm proud of the work I've done. My next book, the idea that I have, that actually is going to be a memoir, but I need a little bit more distance from the events that have transpired in my own life to write a memoir, which is a lot more factual. So I do plan on writing another book someday, and that will be a memoir, as I know right now, at least, but not anytime soon.
I bet you need some time to just relax and kick back after
and promote this book. I barely, because it happened during COVID and a lot was going on in my own personal life, so I haven't even really promoted this one. So I'm not even done with the process of this one. So
let's hope this Live with Suzi program is one of the little promotion for it.
I hope so, and thank you.
Tell us where we can actually get hold of the book, and any suggestions for our viewers and listeners.
You can easily find it on Amazon. That's probably the easiest way. You can type in the title and sometimes why, or the easiest way is to just type in my name in Amazon, Kathy Kaveh, and since it's my only book, it should show up right away. You can also go to your local bookstores. I have talked to some bookstores. They do have it, but if your local bookstore or library doesn't have it, it is in their catalog through Ingram Spark, so they will be able to order it for you within a couple of days. But again, Amazon would be the easiest and fastest way.
Okay, thank you, Kathy Kaveh. Kathy is spelled Kathy, Kaveh is Kaveh, and sometimes Y. Wonderful speaking with you. We wish you all the very best. And
Thank you, Suzi. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your
great
questions. Great.
My
Good
pleasure.
Luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay. Bye-bye.